this video is going to be focusing on data manipulation in R. It's going to be building off the file we created in part 2. So everything in here is the same, and we're going to focus in on this section and perform these tasks. So let's go ahead and run everything here just to get our environment primed. Let's delete these. One very important thing before we get started is a lot of the functions that we're going to be using are contained in this dplyr library, so make sure you have that declared at the top of your script. All right, last video we added a column to our data frame, so we're going to skip over that, but we go into it in part 2 if you really want to see it. Next, we're going to order data by a specified column's value. So specifically, we have this pay raise column, and we just want to sort it both ascending and descending by data frame or by pay raise. So we're going to create a new data frame called ascending pay, and we're going to use the arrange function, and we're going to choose the data frame to arrange, which is df. And then we're going to choose the variable or column to arrange it by, which is pay raise. And then we're just going to view it to make sure it worked. And let's run that. No errors, and it looks like our pay raise column is ascending. So let's do the same thing, but descending. So by default, this arrange function will sort ascending, but if we wanted to do descending, all we have to do is wrap our variable in a descending function like this. So let's go ahead and run that and see if that works. And it looks like it did. So let's move on. So the next thing we're going to do is add a new row. And there's two parts to this. So the first part is actually specifying what you want your new row to contain. So we'll create a variable and we'll call it new row. And we're going to give it the values that we want to see in the row. So since our data has 3 rows, we're going to have 3 variables, and we need to make sure that we include the values that we want for each of these variables in order. So we're going to say our employee number is 11, their base salary is 36,000, and their pay raise is 1,800. All right, the second part is actually adding that new row to your data frame. So we're going to create a new data frame called add row, and we're going to say rbind, and we're going to choose our old data frame, and then we're going to choose what data we want to bind to it, which is our new row variable that we just created. And then we're just going to view our add row data frame to make sure it worked. All right, so it looks like we have 11 columns now instead of 10, and our data was added correctly. So now that we have a new add row data frame that has 11 rows, we might notice that we have 2 rows with the same pay raise value. So employee number 11 has a pay raise of 1,800 along with employee number 3. So if we were to sort that data, we might want a secondary column to sort it by. So let's copy all this order work that we did up here and paste it down here, and say we want to sort by employee number. If the pay raise was equal, all we do is add a second or a third argument to this function with our secondary sort column. And in our case, it will be employee number. And let's just run that and see if it works. But just for reference before we run it, right now we've got Oh, I guess we haven't sorted yet with all that data. So let's just run that and see what it looks like. Oh, I guess we should run it with our add row data frame because that's the one that actually has 11 employees. Sorry. All right, let's see how that looks. All right, this is our descending pay data frame. And we can see that 3 and 11 are the same pay raise value, but then the ID is sorted descending. Here, oh, that's our add row. In our ascending pay, 3 and 11, everything's sorted ascending along with our employee numbers. And then if we wanted to swap those, so it's 11 and 3 instead of 3 and 11, you would just add that descending function around employee number. All right, next we're going to exclude columns from our data. So let's create a new data frame called less column. And we're going to use the subset function. We're going to base it off of our df data frame. And instead of explicitly excluding columns, we're just going to include all the columns that we want to keep. So we're going to say select equals C, and we're going to include employee number along with pay raise. So basically we're excluding the base salary column. All right, and then let's view that to make sure it worked. Okay, looks like we excluded the column that we want to exclude. One note on this, you want to make sure your C is the lowercase, and that is a lesson I learned so that you didn't have to. Okay, next we're going to filter our observations by value. So we are going to basically create two data frames, one with our top 50% earners and then another with our bottom 50% earners. And in order to do that, we first need to figure out what the median base salary is. So we're going to create a new variable called midline. We're going to say it's equal to median of df base salary. And then we're going to create a data frame called top earners. And we're going to say subset df where base salary is greater than the median. Let's spell that right. And let's view top earners to make sure it worked. See if we get any errors there. Top earners not found. Midline not found. Oh, I guess I should run the whole thing. There we go. All right, so we've got 5 observations, which are our top 50% of base salary employees. Let's do the same thing for our bottom half. Let's call them bottom earners. And pretty much the same thing here. Subsetting it, we're using data frame, we're filtering on base salary. Except this time we're saying we want all the ones that are less than midline. And we'll view that. See if that works. All right, looks like that worked. So we've got 1, 1, 3, 4, 7 is our highest one here, and our lowest one here is want 10,000. So yeah, looks like it worked. All right, last one. We're going to add a new column where the values are dependent on the values of another column. So we're going to take this idea one step further. We're going to create a new column called top earner ? And if they belong to that top half, we're going to make the value a 1, and if they're in the bottom half, we're going to make the value a 0. So let's create a new data frame called dependent column, and then we're going to base it off of the df data frame. We're going to do this thing here. And then we're using the mutate function, similar to what we did up here, if you remember that. We're going to create a new column called top earner ? and say it's equal to an if-else statement. So we're going to say if base salary is greater than midline, then 1, else 0. And then we'll view that just to make sure it works. And it looks like it did. So now we've got 5 of our top earners with a value of 1, and then the other 5 have a value of 0. All right, that's all for this video. Thanks.